Welcome to What Retirement Means to You. I'm Rebecca Powers, your host today, here with Jerry Means, creator of Means Financial Group. How are you, Jerry?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today, Rebecca?
So good. Great to see you as always.
I'm happy to be here.
Always learn so much from you. And this week, I love this because you get so many questions, phone calls, emails, that we are going to take some of your questions this week. So let's get started with that.
Sure, I'd love
Kenny. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'd love to do that. Let's do it.
I've had a lot of caffeine today, so I'm a little hyper. All right, Kenny from Lake St. Louis, thank you so much for your question. Kenny says he's about to retire and he knows he has money in 401k. Should he leave his money in the 401k with his current employer, or should he move it to an IRA? Which would be the best idea? And what about my target date funds? What's best to do with that?
Okay, so there's a little bit to unpack there.
Okay.
If he's switching jobs, it's my philosophy that, when you move homes, you move from one house to the other, you don't leave your furniture in the old house,
Exactly.
right? You want to move that with you. And I feel like that's what people should do with their 401k. There are some exceptions if they're going to need access to that money right away, or they're going to need to do some type of loan on that, then it might make sense to leave it there. But in most cases, I think that clients are better off to move it to an IRA. They get more investment options. Inside of 401k, you might have 20 or 30 different investment options, right? But if you move it to an IRA, it opens up the entire investment world. You can buy individual stocks. You can buy exchange-traded funds, annuities. There's lots of things that you can do inside of a traditional IRA that you might not be able to do inside that 401k.
Okay.
Now, the funds inside the 401k are often those target date funds that Kenny referred to.
Okay.
And basically what a target date fund is the closer the date is, so let's say they have a 2025 target date fund. That just means that they're planning on retiring in 2025 or close to that year.
And that could be a year that they had picked 10 years ago, 30 years ago?
Well, usually every year they should be kind of updating that.
Gotcha.
But the idea behind a target date fund is very simple, really. And think about it. 401k, you get really limited financial advice inside of a 401k. Usually you sign up, you pick some funds, you leave it there. Maybe a rep comes in once a year and talks to everyone as a group.
Yeah.
But they're not really working with the financial advisor on an ongoing basis about their situation and what's going on at home very often.
Right.
But a target date fund is basically a combination of mutual funds that are in the stock market and bond funds that are in the stock market. And bonds historically being the safer investment, the closer that you get to that target date, for example, the 2025, the more bonds that you'll have in your portfolio. So it automatically rebalances and buys more bonds inside the portfolio. And that's worked in the past. However, we're seeing a lot of volatility in the bond market. The bonds right now are almost as volatile as the actual S&P 500 is.
Wow.
It's not quite as volatile, but it's up there.
And it used to be different, right? Bonds used to be more safe.
Yeah, right now, as we're doing this show, the general bond market's down about 10%.
Wow.
And even the Treasury ETFs are down somewhere around 13 to 14% at the time that we're doing this show. So,
sorry, what's ETFs?
Exchange traded funds.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a mutual fund that trades like a stock.
I just want to make sure everybody at home is, because you have so much knowledge in that brain, I want to make sure that we,
absolutely,
make sure everybody knows. So go on.
But yeah, the 401k, the target date funds, it's not that they're a bad thing. It's just, it's kind of, I hate to use the word, but old school, right? Yeah. They put those in there to really simplify people picking their funds in their 401k. Instead of having to have an advisor come in all the time and talk with them, hey, just pick the year that you're going to retire. It'll automatically rebalance between stocks and bonds. But again, there's a lot more options outside of the 401k. So to Kenny, I would say you probably want to roll that money over to into a IRA, get more investment options. Also, the fees are more transparent inside of an IRA versus inside of a 401k. So that's something that you should talk to an advisor before you do that. I would like to be the one to help you with that, but you should meet with someone and talk about all of your different options.
Absolutely, great answer. So Sarah and Alan from Chesterfield wanted to know, what is the best time to retire? Is it foolish for us both to retire at the same time, or should we keep one of our incomes to make sure we are covered?
Well, that depends on their age, right?
Okay. They didn't put their age.
Yeah, if they're the same age, then, I mean, I have to know a little bit more of that to give like a solid answer.
Yeah.
But I can get some general things that they need to think about.
Okay.
If they're the same age, and they're going to retire at the same time, that's fine. But a lot of times one spouse might be 9 years older than the other one. And maybe they're the breadwinner, and so they want to retire, so the other one automatically retires. That could be okay. But maybe they both don't start Social Security. Maybe one starts Social Security and the other one defers it. So there's a lot of factors that can play into that. So I can't answer that specifically, but in general, I could give them some things that they should think about.
Okay, absolutely. All right, so Timmy in St. Charles says that his father left him $1.3 million. I'm 27 years old. Is it foolish for me to put it all in the stock market? Because I'm young, they say I can take very large risks. What do you think, Mr. Means?
All right, so 1.3 million. And I'm sorry, how old was his Timmy?
Close to 30, but still in his upper 20s.
All right. So again, it just depends on what Tim is wanting to do, and what his risk tolerance is. Just because you're 30 doesn't mean that you're okay with risk.
Yeah.
If you put 1.3 million in the stock market, and we're seeing a lot of volatility right now, if we see a 20 or 30% correction, you're talking, somewhere in the range of, $360,000 that he would lose. It would be under $1 million now from the 1.3 million. I'm sure his father worked very, very hard to save that money, and to see 360,000 of that 1.3 million disappear, that can, not only is it gut-wrenching to see the money go down, but to know that your father worked his whole life for that. So I think it's okay at 30 if you don't have a high risk tolerance to have some of that in more of a conservative plan. But again, I have to know a little bit more about him and what his situation is. But just because you're 30 doesn't mean you have to go aggressive.
Because, that's kind of how we're always taught. If you're young, because it will go up and down, you'll ride the roller coaster, it'll be there in the end. But that's why I think you always say it is truly best to diversify, but diversify the right way.
Yeah, well, when you're younger, you have time on your side, right? You have a long time horizon before you retire, so you can, ride the market up and down, and over time you're going to do well. However, just because you're able to do that doesn't mean that your stomach can handle it.
Right, and times have changed so much. I mean, he's young. He doesn't remember when we were little and our parents had pensions, but now it's all about the 401k with your employer and the stock market. Was it always this volatile? Or do we just feel that everything's...
Well, I think it's secular. It goes through cycles. I mean, from 1990 to 2000, we had a pretty good run up in the market. That was kind of when I started my career, was in the mid-90s. So you had the dot-com bubble. It was a really great time. You could throw your money at any dot-com stock and it would double. Right. And then, you had the crash, though. And from 2000, 2002, a lot of people went through that pain of those losses and said, hey, I never want to do that again. Market went back up. 2008, we all know what happened with the financial crisis. A lot of people, again, said, hey, I can't really stomach that ever again. But as we've seen the last 13 years, the market's done really well. People get more aggressive when maybe they shouldn't be because they're just comfortable or they feel like they're missing out, right? The FOMO, fear of missing out.
I love that.
And then, now we're starting to see the volatility, and I'm hearing that again. Hey, I don't want to go through that. So you cannot base your plan off, if there's one thing about economics, it's good at predicting the past.
Yeah, I love that.
No one knows what's going to happen in the future.
But I can tell you what did happen, and it usually does repeat itself in general, right? In cycles.
Absolutely.
Well, we need to take a very short break, and we're so happy you're with us today. The number is 844-878-1293, and tell them what we're offering today, Jerry.
So today, what I'm going to offer to the listeners or everyone watching is for the next 10 callers, if you're over age 50, you have at least $250,000 of investable assets. We want to offer you our on-track retirement review. Basically, what we want to do is say, hey, are you on track? Is there anything more that you can be doing right now to either help you retire early or to retire on time? We're going to look at the fees that you're paying. We're going to look at the risk in your portfolio. We're going to see what your income plan is, when you should start drawing Social Security. And then if you're already retired, we want to make sure that you stay on that track, that retirement track. And we're offering that to anyone that calls, the first 10 callers that call in, and that number is 844-878-1293.
And when we come back, more of your questions and the answers from Jerry Means. Stay with us.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go? And who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Thank you so much for staying with us on What Retirement Means to You, because, of course, it is a play on your name, Jerry Means, but it is also really the first thing you want to find out from someone is what retirement means to you, because everyone is different.
Yeah, it's the first question that I ask when people come into the office. You know, we shake hands and we sit down and, you know, what was it that made you contact me to come in for your on-track review? What was it that I said or that I covered?
Yeah.
You know, that really piqued your interest, or what is it? What's your, you know, your pain point? What is it that you're concerned about?
Exactly.
And for some people, it's just maybe they have one account they've been really unhappy with, and they want to get a second opinion on it. For other people, it's, you know, maybe their advisor's not answering some of the questions that they have. You know, they're kind of blowing them off, or they're not getting contact from their current advisor. You know, a lot of times people say, I never hear from my advisor.
Yep,
you know,
that happens a lot.
You know, it happens often. So yeah, it's a lot of times it's just communication. They want to sit down and say, hey, I just want more communication. And then some people come in and say, hey, you know, I'm planning to retire in the next few years, and I'm concerned I haven't done everything that I need to do, and I wanted to get a second opinion and make sure that I'm on track to do that. And so that starts with asking them, well, what does retirement mean to you? What do you want to do once you retire? What is your income, you know, that you're going to need? So I help people work through all that.
That's fantastic. All right, let's take some questions. John David from Lake St. Louis said, I don't understand how my financial planner even gets paid. It's never been mentioned, and I feel funny asking. Can you please shed some light?
That's funny. So I learned a long time ago, I addressed that in the first meeting.
Really?
Yeah. So when someone comes in, it's a lot to go over, you know, here on the air, but basically I get on the whiteboard and just say, hey, here's how some advisors are paid. Here's how I'm paid. Here's the difference and how it works. And this is my model. You know, are you comfortable with the way that I do it versus the way the other advisors do it? And if they don't know how their advisor is charging them, that's something they need to be asking.
Right.
You know, because you want to know what fees you're paying. Fees aren't necessarily a bad thing. It's just...
Well, you need to feed your family, too. I mean, everyone has to get paid for their expertise.
Sure.
But the big boxes tend to not really tell you. I think that's probably his point.
Sure. You know, we have an office building and staff, and, you know, we have resources that we have to tap into to help our clients.
Of course.
But there's nothing wrong with paying fees as long as you understand the fees you're paying and you understand the value that you're getting. You know, a lot of people say, well, I don't want to pay any fees, you know, or I want the cheapest fees. Well, the cheapest isn't always the best. You know, you might not want to go with the cheapest. You might not want to go with the most expensive, you know. I mean, we're not talking about someone coming into your house and painting a room, right? Maybe you don't want the cheapest for that either, because sometimes you get what you pay for. But it kind of reminds me of this story. My daughter is a hairdresser and owns her own salon.
Nice.
And, it doesn't really pertain to her, but it reminds me of a story that I heard not too long ago. There was a barber that had a really growing practice, you know, or salon.
And they make a lot of money.
Yeah, he was doing really well. And so another barber bought the building across the street, and he lowered his prices than the one that had been there before and said, you know, we do haircuts for $10, right? And so the barber that had the growing business was worried that, all my customers are going to go over there because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Well, he quickly learned out that they just weren't happy over there. So he hung a sign in his window that said, "I fix $10 haircuts."
That's great.
So it's really,
Right.
the value that you get for what you're paying, what you're paying for. So it's important to know what your fees are, and then what value are you getting for that? And that should be transparent from the get-go.
And with something like your hair, I'm sorry you don't have any hair, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, I probably shouldn't be telling hair jokes, but
your daughter does your beard though, I'm sure, very
yes,
nicely.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's really a trust factor, especially when you're talking about your money and being able to, you have to share all these intimate details, with the person you trust to guide you through the financial world. So I just want to talk a little bit about you. Your wife, Angela, is part of your life every day. She helps run the office. Jen is right at the front. If you call 844-878-1293, Jen's going to answer.
Yep.
It is very much, and every person gets to meet you. It's not like some big national commercial where you'll never even meet the guy you see on TV. So let's talk about that first experience meeting you.
Yeah, I always think it's funny when, there's nothing wrong with having multiple advisors in an office. That's great. It means you have a growing practice. But I always think it's funny when people come in, they say, well, I called or I went in to meet with an advisor I've seen on television or heard on the radio, but I didn't meet with them. I met with their junior advisor. And I'm thinking, I don't want to meet with a junior or anything, right?
I want the senior.
Let me know when there's a senior partner around, So I've kind of built my practice, being that small family firm. Now, I have a lot of resources behind me.
Absolutely.
I have a sleepy office in St. Peter's. You pull in the parking lot, you're not going to see a zillion cars. We're a small family-owned business.
It's more boutique, though. You're
It's
very,
a boutique
very
firm.
one-on-one personal.
Absolutely. But we have a team of people off-site behind us that helps run analysis, run reports, things like that. So we do have a team, but our nucleus is a small family business, and people meet with me personally when they come in.
And that's fantastic. I think a lot of people really, really, enjoy that and appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break in just a few minutes, but we will talk about the analysis, the different things that you said, that the programs that you have, and thanks to technology, there's many, many reports and very detailed reports that you can give now. So let's give the number again and tell them what they can expect when they come to your office.
So for the next 10 callers, what we're offering is our on-track retirement review. And what this review is based for is to make sure that if you're retiring in the next 10 years, that you're on track, you're doing all of the things that you need to be doing. We don't want to miss any pieces of the puzzle. We want to look at what your healthcare insurance cost is going to be. Is there anything that we can do to lower that for you? We're going to look at the fees that you're paying. Make sure that you understand the fees that you're paying and what value you're getting out of that. We also want to look at the volatility in your portfolio. Maybe your advisor hasn't been tweaking your portfolio and going more conservative as you're getting closer to retirement. You need to have those conversations, and it's always good to get a second opinion. And just like when you go to the doctor, often they'll do something called a stress test. We can do that on your portfolio. We use our software program, and we can throw in a lot of different hypotheticals and see how those outcomes would affect your retirement. And we're offering all of that at no cost, no obligation to the next 10 callers. Just call 844-878-1293. Thank you.
More when we come back with Jerry Means about your financial future, and maybe, hopefully, you can retire sooner than you expected. We'll be right back.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Thanks so much for staying with us on What Retirement Means to You with Jerry Means. I'm Rebecca Powers, and we're so happy we want to really encourage you to keep bringing those questions in. You can email us or even call the office with some questions that you might have. And make sure to have your calendar so we can make an appointment if you'd like to come meet Jerry and his big team. Technology. A lot of us don't like technology, including myself. Social media, I certainly don't like. But technology has helped you and other fiduciaries really have many more tools to dig very deeply and know to the penny what someone's future could be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about those tools.
Yeah, I'll explain some of those, but I have to tell you with the social media and things like that.
Okay.
I have all of those tools. So we have a Facebook page and Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube, so you can go check that out. I have those, they're necessary to the business.
Sure,
right?
That's the marketing
If it wasn't
side.
for the business, I don't know that I would have all that either. And it's the same thing in practice too, right? There's tools that we have to use to illustrate to people, or that we should use to illustrate to people different outcomes.
Yes.
There's something called a Monte Carlo simulator, and that's, not to get too fancy, but that's the terminology in the industry. But all it is it's predicting different future outcomes. We can look at if someone's getting a good sequence of returns in the beginning part of their retirement, average sequence of returns, or really negative sequence of returns, how that will affect their portfolio. And so we'll enter in all of these different data points and say, okay, what if you retire at full retirement age and you start drawing X amount of dollars out? You have this much Social Security in, this much pensions, and we have a market downturn right in the beginning of your retirement. How is that going to affect you? You would be surprised to see how those first few years can change the outcome of the total retirement plan.
Wow.
Often I'll show that to someone, and all of a sudden they're not as aggressive as they thought they were.
Eye-opening.
They're saying, hey, I don't know that I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And it also will give a probability. So we can say, listen, you have a 97% probability of not running out of money before age 98. Right, or 100.
Yeah.
And now we always want to get it to 100, right? It's not always possible, but we want to get it as close to that number as we can. But if someone comes in and it's 70% chance that they're going to make it and 30% chance they're going to fail and not run out of money, I always talk about the airplanes, right? I mean, if you got on an airplane and the captain came on and said, hey, skies are blue, it looks really nice, I don't think there's going to be a lot of turbulence, we have about a 70% chance of landing, right? I'm getting off that plane.
A lot of people would be.
I want a higher percentage, chance of that. So that's what we try to do with the testing with the software that we have. It's an illustration tool.
It's
right?
really tremendous, though, because it helps people really see and realize what they can handle.
Correct. And some of these tools, it's not like the consumer, there's lots of calculators online. I'm not talking about a basic calculator. This is a comprehensive financial planning tool designed for financial advisors to help people. And so it's something I got to invest in my business so that I could help my clients see their outcomes. And so we run all of those different things for them and show them. And we can do different factors, like we have the Social Security analysis to help them to decide when the best time to draw their Social Security is. So we always do a Social Security report for them. On top of that, we want to do the written income plan. We want to build some guarantees into their portfolio. And a lot of times we're doing that with lifetime guaranteed annuities, things like that. That's one portion of the portfolio. We have an investment side that's in stocks, bonds, mutual funds. But there's really no one product. If someone says, I got the best annuity for you, you should probably run the other direction, because there is no best annuity. It's the best option for your situation.
Right.
Same thing with portfolios. There's no best portfolio. It depends on what the person's trying to accomplish and what they want to do.
It's like those dresses that they say one size fits all. Then when you put it on, you're like, this does not look good.
Right. You can wear it, but it's not going to feel like a tailored suit.
It is not perfect specifically for you.
And again, not all advisors, have the same licensing and do things the same way. Some are just standard practitioners, right? I mean, they're just accumulation specialists. They're going to have money. You have your money with them, and they're just going to buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, look at your risk class, and that's it. And they're going to say, hey, if you just draw 3 or 4% out, you're not going to run out of money. That's not a retirement plan.
Right.
Your statement that you get every month, that's not a retirement plan. We want to do a strategy, and we want it to be in writing. This is what we're looking to do. So those are the kind of tools that we use.
And so the statement is not a retirement plan. It is just literally one piece of your puzzle.
Correct.
What are some of the other pieces, if you would just kind of name them off?
Well, I always laugh because I talk about the junk drawer, you know, that everyone has in the
We
kitchen.
all have that.
Yeah, you have the scissors in there and some tape and batteries and screwdriver and a hammer and old sunglasses, whatever it is. A lot of times people have like almost like a junk drawer of investments. I mean, it's not junk, but they have a hodgepodge of investments. Yeah, they think they're diversified because they've got mutual funds over here and money at the bank here, but none of those things are talking to each other, and they haven't been able to design a plan and pull all that together and say, well, what does this look like for me? They might have a spreadsheet. That's not a retirement plan either.
Okay.
That's just an inventory of what you have, which that's a good place to start.
Right, it's good to bring that to you when they come.
How do you turn it into cash flow? In retirement, cash flow is king.
Cash flow is king. That means every month, on the first of the month, you know your bills are covered, so then you have like play money.
Yeah, you want to have paychecks and play checks.
Ooh,
right?
I'm going to write that down. Paychecks and play checks.
Yeah, the paychecks are for your everyday essential living expenses, your house payment, your electric, your food bills, things like that. Then you have your play money, right? Your play checks. That's the money that you want to use to do your traveling, or maybe you want to gift some of that money to kids or grandkids, or just help them out with something. So I always say, we need to design the paychecks for retirement and the play checks for retirement. Because when you retire, the checks stop coming in. You got to build your own check, other than Social Security, which is only a portion.
And you also do, we only have a few minutes left, but you also do legacy planning, right? If somebody does want to leave it, you mentioned grandkids, if they do want to pay it forward, you can do that in your office as well, right? Absolutely.
I mean, half the people that come in, that's what they're telling me, that I'm okay right now in retirement. We make sure that they're on track and that they're okay. But a lot of times it's just, hey, we want to leave money to our kids, but we don't want them to go through all the hassles. Maybe they inherited money and that was great. No one's going to, complain about inheritance.
Sure, good for them.
They might have had to go through a lot of hassles to get that over, or maybe someone didn't give them good tax advice and they want to avoid that for their kids. We can help them do that. So
fantastic. Well, it's time to say goodbye already. We're so happy you're with us today. There's the number again, 844-878-1293. Make sure you have your calendar, please, if you don't mind, when you call us, so we can pick the perfect time and date to come and see you. And the office is in St. Peter's. But give them that offer one more time. We're going to keep the phones open, I think, an extra hour today, the producer said. So tell them what they're going to get if they come meet you. So
what we're going to do is, for the next 10 callers, if you're over age 50, maybe you're seeing retirement on the horizon, and you have more than $250,000 of investable assets, we're offering an on-track retirement review. It's no cost, no obligation. You'll come into the office, you'll meet with me personally. I want to get to know you. I want to answer your questions, see what your concerns are. We'll talk about whatever it is that made you call in today, and we'll address that, but we'll also look at the comprehensive plan. And again, we're offering all of that at no cost, no obligation. Just give us a call, 844-878-1293, and Jen will set you up with the time to talk with me.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you at home for joining us. We hope to see you again next time.